You know, one of the troubles of creating these instructional videos is that some of the movements that I am demonstrating, I truly am not the best at demonstrating because of my own imbalances and restrictions. This particular one is probably one that goes under that category. So really rely upon the verbal instructions more so than the visual cues that you'll see my body move, because this is one that is in my program that I am continually trying to achieve better and better. It is the cats and dogs, or the quad cogs. We call it quad cogs because you're on 4 points of contact, or you're in a quadruped position where both hands and both knees are going to be supporting you in a table-like position on the floor. And the goal is to achieve nice spinal flexion where the back lifts up and come down into extension. The trouble with this one, for most people, myself included, is the area that we achieve flexion is usually in the middle of the back. And where we achieve extension is going to be in the lumbar or low back. But that is not necessarily where we want to achieve it. We actually want to slow down or diminish a little bit of the flexion in the mid-back and encourage more in the lower back, and vice versa. On the way down, we want to try and drive a little bit more into the mid-back and not cave in quite so hard into the lower back. So in this position, bear in mind, I am not a perfect example of this. You're going to have your hands so that they are directly underneath your shoulders and from all directions. So the hands do not want to be wide out, but if I took a plumb bob, a weight on the end of a string, from my shoulder joint at the end of my collarbone there, and dropped the weight down, it should go right through the middle of my hand, the middle of my wrist, and elbow for that matter. Now meanwhile, the knees themselves want to be positioned so that they are underneath the hips in all directions. As I lift up here, I'm going to try and lift through my low back as well as my mid-back. And this would be a nice time to exhale. And then, as I begin lowering down, I'm going to try and get more extension into my mid-back, feel how the shoulder blades come together without dipping deep into a saddle of my low back. And then I just change directions and come on up, trying to get that lower back to lift up at the same time the mid-back does. The head itself doesn't need to lift and lower, but it can stay nice and level, looking straight at the floor. Now sometimes what I'll do as a trainer is just encourage one area to rise up by tapping it. So if you happen to have a workout partner, you may want to just tap the area that you want to lift up and put your hand on the other area to encourage it to slow down. So we can kind of block or encourage depending upon the person and what their spine is doing. But ultimately what we're trying to do here is not only flex and extend the spine, but the hips and shoulders are having to go through movement that corresponds to this spinal action. So there's internal and external rotation, there's tilting as you can see, the shoulder blades move together and apart. There's a tremendous amount of integrative movement with this action. And it's a yoga pose that's been around for somewhere between 5,000 to 10,000 years. So it's nothing new. It's just something that we need to reinforce potentially in the program based on your structure and your movement patterns. So remember to assess, perform the movement, and reassess. Was there a benefit to doing this? Put it into your program for the time being, but come back and assess another time to make sure that you're right on track.